if you have two genders and one of them is being rewarded for being more aggressive and more assertive, of course that gender is going to be in more positions of power. But the reason why they're more aggressive and more assertive is because those are the same attributes that women reward and have rewarded with sex throughout the existence of Homo sapiens.
The traits that make a man attractive, right, to women, the ones that they reward are, one, the ones that they quote-unquote complain about, but two, it's also the traits that lead to the quote-unquote patriarchy that we're in, like leadership, like dominance.
Yeah, so if you want to fuel the idea of a patriarchy, I think the majority of the world is a meritocracy, not a patriarchy. If you don't believe me, like 60% of college graduates or college enrollees are female. Like I believe 5% of psychologists under the age of 30 are male. 5%. I believe we live more in a meritocracy now than a patriarchy. I do. But there is obviously some patriarchal ideas. Like, for instance, I think it's 55 of the Fortune 500 CEOs are female, something like that. Like at the highest levels, there is a wage gap, and at the highest levels, 100%. There is a patriarchy. I'm not saying there isn't. But my point is, when women consistently have sex with men and choose men that show aggressiveness and dominance, they show like strong masculine features, a strong jaw, broad shoulders, like all these things that basically lead to men being more aggressive and more assertive. If you have two genders and one of them is being rewarded for being more aggressive and more assertive, of course that gender is going to be in more positions of power. But the reason why they're more aggressive and more assertive is because those are the same attributes that women reward and have rewarded with sex throughout the existence of Homo sapiens. And it's not just Homo sapiens, it's fucking gorillas and lions and tigers as well. In any species of elephant bull seals, in any species where men compete with other men for access to females, you're going to see women reward the bigger, stronger, more aggressive, more assertive male. So here's the thing, and I don't mean to say this to blame women. This is the last chapter of When Men Behave Badly by Dr. Buss. Is he talks about this. It's like, if women stop sleeping with men who are more narcissistic, more aggressive, more assertive, more physically dominant, and more muscular, if women stop sleeping with those men, then you would see this massive change in the way men look. And by the way, you do see it somewhat. Men now have less testosterone than they did 50 years ago. Yeah. Because the nerdy guy with the glasses who becomes a tech billionaire, he's more
adapted for now.
Yeah, he's having more sex with more women. So you are seeing the guy with the, like, myopia, for instance, is more prevalent myopia is more prevalent in the population now than it is like 300 years ago because of corrective lenses. Because more people can wear glasses and still be able to function. Whereas if you were severely myopic, the likelihood of you having children was very low 500 or 600 years ago. Now the myopia gene, because of LASIK, contact lenses and glasses, more people are myopic because there's less selection pressure against that thing. Well, now there used to be selection pressure for a man against him being weak, physically weak, because the majority of our society was agrarian, meaning you had to milk the cows and till the soil. So you needed physical muscle mass in order to do that. And as we've gotten away from that type of society, the man who has less muscle mass, less aggressive and less assertive, now he's able to have more children. So if you think, like, and if you look at it, if there was a patriarchy, if you want to argue there was a patriarchy, was there more of a patriarchy in 1924 or 2024? It's not even a question. Obviously, in 1924, there were like, men could beat the shit out of their wife. Men could kill. Their spousal murder was legal in some states back in 1924. Do you guys understand?
Yeah.
There was a patriarchy. It was far greater in the past than it is today. And so we've made strides to move forward to stop those things from happening, and that's great. But we keep, and by the way, I'm not saying patriarchy is even good or bad. What I'm saying is that it is an inevitability. If you keep rewarding men for being aggressive and assertive men are going to be born. And those aggressive and assertive men are going to take periods and places of responsibility and authority, and therefore they are going to shape society. And the only people you can blame are the women who keep having sex with the aggressive and assertive men.
Right. So why do you think that's offensive? Because, like, I don't care what anyone says. I'll say this on camera. Academia has an agenda, and it is very, very left-leaning, which is fine. I'm pretty left-leaning too. But the point is that you saying that, you know, these traits that are attractive lead to a patriarchy, and saying that women have the responsibility for it, that's very offensive.
Yes.
So why do you think there's that dichotomy? Because people just don't want to hear that.
Okay, so there's a normative description, and then there's a normative and prescriptive. What are the two ones? Normative and descriptive. Those are the two. You guys can watch Gad Saad. He does a video about where he counters objections to evolutionary psychology.
Right.
And he talks about the difference between normative and descriptive. What we do whenever you describe concepts in evolutionary psychology, those are descriptive, meaning the fact that a man has, I believe, a median grip strength for a man puts him in the top 2 percentile of women.
Yeah.
So grip strength is a massive dimorphic difference. In fact, the two of the biggest dimorphic difference between men and women are men's desire for sexual variety and men's upper body strength. Those are the two biggest ones. Okay. Men's ability to throw objects also massive. The difference between men and women being able to throw objects, which again, where does that come from? Hunting. It's a hunting adaptation. We can throw objects overhand. Apes cannot throw objects overhand. I don't know if you know this. They don't have the same ball and socket joint that Homo sapiens have. And they can't walk on 2 feet. Also, Homo sapien females are the only females. They have an adaptive problem. The only 2-legged females on Earth that have to walk upright. Maybe if you look at like marsupials, like kangaroos, maybe have to do this, but they have to walk upright while gestating a child. That's why women have a 45-degree lombardosis in the back of their spine, and that's the one that is best for being able to carry children while walking on all fours. Cats walking on 2 legs. Cats do it on all fours. These are adaptive solutions to evolutionary problems that people had throughout history, and we found solutions to those problems. What was the original question?
No. It's like, why you saying that there are these differences, and these differences lead to the patriarchy. About.
So what happens is when you say descriptive, I'm describing how the world was.
Yeah.
If you want to say normative, if you want to say the world should be more egalitarian in the future, I actually don't have a problem with that.
Don't have a problem with that either.
If we had replicators, if we could replicate and create infinite amounts of food, clothing, and shelter, I actually don't have a huge problem with socialism. Yeah. I really don't. Now you're going to take a motivation away from a lot of people, but I don't have a problem with it. The problem is we don't live in a time with replicators and fucking holodecks. This is not Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so we have a finite amount of food. That food has to be you have to incentivize people to produce that food. You do so with money. Okay. We live in a world where it's not like that. So we have to live in a certain level of reality. Just waving our hand and saying a trans woman is a biological woman. When you say that, the problem is it's not true.
Yeah.
And when you say that, now you erode science, and now why do I even believe in gravity? And if you look, more and more people don't believe in gravity because of morons like Terrence Howard going on Joe Rogan or fucking flat earthers.
Yeah.
But how are you able to erode that? You're able to erode it by believing in stuff that isn't true. There's nothing wrong. If a man wants to call himself a woman, I don't have a problem with that because culturally he has the right to do so. First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Right. He has the right to do so. But if a man wants to then tell me because he's transitioned to a woman, now he can have babies, and the fact that I say that he can't makes me a fucking bigot or a misogynist. What's happened then is that now we're talking about things that aren't true. First off, my statement is based in fact, and there's no hatred involved. And second of all, what you're saying is objectively not true. So if we get to the point where your feelings make objective truths not be true anymore, then what is the point of the electromagnetic effect? What is the point of the strong or weak nuclear force? What is the point of gravity? What is the point of quantum mechanics? What is the point of relativity? These are objective truths. What do we fucking need them for? Because nothing is objectively true. It's called postmodernist thinking.
Yeah.
And so when you have that sort of belief, then things become problematic. Now, here's the thing. When you explain to men and women, just people in general in academia, that here is unassailable proof that men are more interested in sexual variety than women, what happens is now your narrative or your fucking goal of trying to make the world egalitarian, I've put a wrench in your works. Does that make sense? I'm throwing a monkey wrench in there.
Yeah.
I don't mean, when I describe Homo sapiens, I don't mean to say that we always have to be like this. Okay? The levels of male jealousy during the Pleistocene led to murder. I don't think that if you catch your girlfriend cheating on you, you should murder her and her new boyfriend.
Right.
That's bad. That's maladaptive for today's society. But I can explain to you why jealousy exists. It's because during the Pleistocene, the men who were not fastidious about who their wife was sleeping with and their wife's pregnancy ended up raising other men's children.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So the men who were fastidious about it, they ended up raising their own children and passing along their jealousy gene into the next generation. That's the way it worked. And you and me and everyone we've ever met are the result of an unbroken chain of replication, an unbroken chain of two people getting together and having a child. So if you understand that concept, then what happens is me explaining the dirty, nasty part about human. I call those hairless murder apes. When I explain that we're hairless murder apes, that doesn't mean we always have to be hairless murder apes. You understand, your ancestors and my ancestors belong to tribes. And when we saw people from other tribes, we had no choice. We had to go kill them. We didn't know if they were friend or foe. The safest thing for me to do is to kill these people from another tribe and then take the virgin and the young women and absorb them into our tribe. That is literally the most logical and safe thing for me to do during that time period. I had to, because they had hunters, etc., whatever. Which, by the way, this is another. I'm way off topic here, but it's one of the theories for why psychopathy exists. One of the theories for the reason why there are psychopaths is because someone had to sneak into the other tribe in the middle of the night and bash people's heads in with a rock and not feel guilty about it. That's the adaptation for psychopathy. But like what happens is now my guilt, like my girlfriend could have cheated and then used a contraceptive and not got pregnant, but I'm still mad as fuck. Yeah. I'm still mad. Why am I mad? That's not logical. She's not going to have a child with someone else. Why am I? Well, because it's an evolutionary adaptation through, 200,000 years of Homo sapien evolution, 3 million years of hominid evolution, 178 million years of mammalian evolution. That's where that evolutionary adaptation comes from. I'm explaining it. If I deny it, I can never get past it. Does that make sense? If I act as if that jealousy is not a maladapted adaptation, but instead it's just male fucking insecurity because of our weak ego, then because you're infantilizing men by doing that, what happens is instead of these men figuring out a way to overcome their jealousy, or maybe not overcome, but at least act in a rational manner when they was like, hey, man, your girl cheated on you, take out your card and you charge it to the game. Next girl. When you can have that attitude, which my caveman ancestors did not have that attitude. They couldn't charge it to the game because there were only like 3 or 4 women that they could breed with in their small 150-person tribe. So because I have this abundance, I can charge it to the game, go into the next one. That is a better adaptation, but it's not a natural adaptation. It's one that has to be learned, but I can't have that adaptation if I don't at least admit that jealousy comes from evolution. If I deny that, I can never overcome it. Like Eckhart Tolle says, what you resist persists. So when you resist that there are innate sex differences between men and women, we can never overcome them and become a better society. My solution is actually going to get us to an egalitarian society before the fucking feminists and the fucking women's gender studies courses will. Mine will. Mine will actually get us there quicker because we can overcome these things when we accept that's why they exist, instead of doing what Mooncat did and blamed every single innate sex difference between men and women on fucking patriarchy. Really? Is that why male chimps are more interested in casual sex than female chimps? Because of fucking patriarchy? Is that the reason why? And let me ask you something else. If patriarchy was real, like the necessity for casual sex, or the necessity for sexual variety was a function of patriarchy, why is 98% of pornography consumed by men? Even when you're in your house alone and no one can judge you, women are still not choosing sexual variety to the level of men. And by the way, it's not just straight men. It's gay men. Gay men consume far, like the ratio of gay men consuming pornography in comparison to lesbian women is 1 million to 1. It's not even close. And so when you come to this realization, you say, okay, Michael's right. Turns out sexual variety in men, like men wanting more sexual variety, not a function of patriarchy. It's not a function of culture. It's a function of genetics. And so now, because we know that's the case, now we can start to work through it as opposed to denying that it exists.
It's funny. I'm glad we're talking about like evolution. I feel like living in Vegas, you get to see evolution just really at play. I'll die on the hill with this statement. The best degree in evolutionary psychology is not going to Harvard. It's not Dave Buss's lab at UT Austin. It is XS Nightclub. It is the greatest teacher of evolution is the nightclub. I always say life is a nightclub because you just see one, the dimorphic sex differences, 2, the way the setup works, how status works, and also something, because I used to promote in Boston, stuff like that. I met a lot of girls who were really liberal. They didn't like the patriarchy. They didn't like men and women treated differently. I'm like, look, you could pay for the table at the club. And be like, well, I want to go to the club. Well, but I'm not only going to go if Tristan takes me. I'm like, okay. So I think that is the best learning mechanism of evolutionary psychology because you get to really see it. In the field, in real time.
So 2 great books. One's called The Intelligence Paradox, and the other one is called Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters by Satoshi Kanazawa. And Dr. Kanazawa and I have had we've had some correspondence via email. And one of the things I told him, I was like, Dr. Kanazawa, absolutely the greatest evolutionary psychology experiment of all time is called Las Vegas, Nevada. Maybe Dubai's like this now too, but it's like the girls with the biggest
nightclubs specifically.
the girls with the biggest boobs and the blondest hair are going up against the guys who have the highest status and the most money.
Yes.
And they're like literally meeting at this apex, like tip of the spear, just incredible, like high levels of male intersexual competition where dudes are shitting on each other and like, you bought $100,000 bottle, I'm gonna buy $100,000, bitch. And they go back and forth at each other.